What our council has perfected right now is, exactly as Gary discussed, putting out fires. Let's put out the fire, 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 instead of saying, what does the city look like 80 years from now? Ultimately, the role of the council, the role of a mayor is the CEO of the city. The council should be the board of directors. We all know from the Fiesta Bowl, the board of directors doesn't always do the jobs, right?
They should have fun.
They do have fun. But what our council needs to be is they need to be that oversight committee to make sure that if water department lies to us about a vote and we vote for it, that we don't sit back and say, they lied. Man, that really burned me up. But we take action on it and we make sure it doesn't happen again. Because that is exactly what is happening in the city. It's happening over and over and over again. And unless we have a strong council and a strong mayor to stand up to these folks, it's going to continue. And we can't let it. The next page talks about where did the money go. We can skip that because I'm running a little long, but I want to go to the fiscal responsibility. We talked about the tax increases. We highlighted the $252 million of cuts last year. Everybody remembers that number, right? And $59 million this year. Everybody remembers that number. If you look at this chart, what it shows is that the 2010-2011 budget is still higher than the budget 2006 and 2007, even with all those cuts. We've lost population. We don't know, the census isn't out yet, so we don't know how many people we've lost, but we're still spending more than we were 5 years ago. In addition, the tax increase on the food tax is supposed to be a 3-year tax. If you go onto the City of Phoenix website, it is included in the full amount in the 2013-2014 revenue projections. These aren't my numbers, those are the City of Phoenix numbers, which tells you that the city either is deciding that we're going to continue the tax, or we just, I didn't know, another crisis coming down the road. Reducing the size of city government. A lot of talk about the cuts, the $252 million. We cut 1,000 positions. I heard that over and over and over from Mr. Gordon. And that's exactly right. We cut 1,000 positions. Vacant positions. Positions that didn't save the city any actual expenditures. They just saved the city on the budget. Why? So that we could say that we're cutting while we come back to you for more and more money. And for more and more money. No, I'm tired of tax increases myself. Talked about the water department a little bit. Shell game, exactly as Gary said. I think you put that very, very well. And it's a concern. This, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest things besides the pro-union council. Truly a balanced budget. On the City of Phoenix website, 34%, and it's on that page as well. That's why I printed that off for you all, the single page. 34% of the City of Phoenix budget is special funds, grants from the federal government and the state government, state shared revenues, et cetera, et cetera. How many people think the federal government might have to make some cuts at some point in the future? How many people think the state government might have to make some cuts in the future? Okay. Do you think our share of the pie might come down quite a bit? Yep. And yet, if you look at the numbers from 5 years ago, this is actually 3% higher. So we're relying more and more on the federal and state government to provide our funds for things such as roads, bridges, etc. Then if they take that money away, we're going to be in trouble. Because we're going to have to find a way to maintain those bridges. Certainly we don't expect it to happen, right? And that's why we continue to have it in our budget. But understanding the possibility that it could is something that we need to have contingency plans for now, not when it happens. Reduce unemployment through job creation. Fiscal responsibility. We can grow revenues if we create jobs. So creating jobs that we talked about on the first slide, if we can do that, we can increase revenues without increasing taxes, which is obviously ideal for everyone. Comprehensive independent audit of city finances. The police report, $169,000, and it was summarily in the news, at least, and I certainly understand things are working behind the scenes. But in the news, it received a very cool reception. We can't ignore places to look for money. The police and fire are 70% of our budget. 70%. We can't ignore looking at that chunk of money and find ways to save costs. And so looking through that report, and finding reasonable solutions that don't compromise security and don't compromise our ability to prosecute crimes is something that we need to do. Reduce grant lines, 28% of city budget, eliminating unnecessary positions through consolidation of services across department lines, and end tax programs on schedule, and require greater accountability and transparency. Another issue that I don't think gets a whole lot of press is transparency in city government. If you go onto the website and you try to find Miss Williams' voting record, which I tried to do when I started this campaign so I could find areas where I disagreed with her, it doesn't exist. You literally have to go into the minutes of each and every meeting to find out how people voted. There is no accountability if you have to do that. In addition, if you try and find the minutes from the last meeting, 4 weeks later, you'll find them. Anybody want to guess how many times the minutes have been changed in the past year from the time that they were produced to the time that they were approved? 1. It was a minor change. Realistically, we can put out those minutes like that so that you can see how your council people voted, how your mayor voted immediately. If there needs to be changes, we can make those changes. But we need to put that out there. Online, there is no way to view the city council meetings. You have to watch Channel 11. Great. Except I don't have cable. I have 3 kids in the house. I don't want cable. So I can't follow the city council meetings until I read the report 4 weeks later. So understanding those transparency issues, putting out a voting record, letting accountability happen at the city council level are things that need to happen for our city government to run efficiently and effectively. Last thing, forward leadership. We talked a little bit about the city council being the board of directors, and we talked a little bit about how we're putting out fires. Imagine with me McDonald's, and imagine if McDonald's, as a corporation, only came out with a new drink every time Starbucks did, and they were always second. Do you think McDonald's would still be in business?
No.
Probably not, right? I mean, they might because they sell burgers too. But a large chunk of their income is coming from those specialty drinks. McDonald's has a strategy, they have a plan, and they follow it. Yes, it's not always perfect, and the city council doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not saying it does. Certainly, I would have made mistakes, I'm sure, over the last 4 years. But having a plan and knowing what the path shows and knowing where we want to go is vital to being able to create something that actually follows that plan. And so, this is my vision statement for what I'll have in my office if I'm fortunate enough to receive your votes and be elected. But this is what I'll look at every day to make sure that every vote I make, every decision I make, every conversation I have goes back to this. What are we doing to support this? Because ultimately, I think if we can bring neighborhoods, businesses, schools, churches, and government together and build a vibrant, high-flying, dynamic city that meets the needs and challenges of the 22nd century while still providing a world-class city today, I think this is the right path to follow. I'm ready for questions. Oh, that scares me.
Or just absorbing it all.
I do that.
Eric, we're just trying to absorb it all. Go ahead,
An observation I've seen is that businesses are fleeing California, and instead of stopping here, they're going to Texas. We have the weather, we have the housing, and the taxes are killing us, and they're killing us because our city government spends too much money.
Absolutely.
And we have to get taxes down, and we're done.
And the state has made some efforts toward that, and the city can make some efforts toward it. And ultimately, I think as long as we're competitive, it's how I run my business. If you're competitive and you can create that personal relationship, I think you can win enough cases to be able to build that city that we need and build the job structure and the broad base of jobs. So ultimately, I agree with you, but I think it's a personal relationship that we're really missing. And I think it could be a competitive advantage.
Okay. All this is great vision from all of you, but do you really think that the city of Phoenix can make a difference and create jobs as long as there's the threat from Washington of Obamacare, tax, anybody that makes any money? Do you really think that you all can make a change?
I think
as long as that hangs there?
I think ultimately businesses are still going to be created. Because ultimately you still have needs from people. They need to purchase things, they need to purchase services. We become a very service-dependent society.